It started like any ordinary day, until it wasn't. A young woman walked into a high-end clothing store, excited to treat herself after a long week. But instead of a warm welcome, she was met with cold stares and whispered judgments. A few minutes later, she was told, very bluntly, that she didn't belong there and should leave. No reason, no explanation, just a smug manager and a few snickering employees. Most people would have walked away, humiliated, but not her. What the staff didn't know was that this woman wasn't just a customer. She was a quiet success story. A self-made entrepreneur with more power and resources than they could have imagined. And right there, standing in front of the fitting room, she made a silent decision. If they thought she didn't belong in the store, maybe it was time she owned it. What happened next turned into a story the town couldn't stop talking about, because just weeks later, she walked back into that same store, but this time, not as a customer. And let's just say, the look on their faces when they found out who the new boss was? Priceless. But this story isn't just about revenge. It's about standing your ground, rewriting the rules, and showing what real power looks like when it's quiet, focused, and driven by purpose. What did she do next? And how did one bold move change everything, not just for her, but for the people who underestimated her? Keep watching. The best part is still to come. Her name was Maya. Quiet, sharp, and never one to show off. She had grown up in a working-class neighborhood, raised by a single mom who taught her to keep her head high, no matter how low things got. Over the years, Maya turned a small online side hustle into a thriving business, building a brand that valued people over image. She never forgot where she came from, and she never let success change how she treated others. That's what made what happened in that store sting even more. The store she was kicked out of, it wasn't just any boutique. It was the same one she used to window shop outside as a teenager, dreaming of one day buying something there. To finally have the means to walk in and be treated like she didn't belong. That hit deep. She didn't react in the moment. No yelling, no fighting. Just a quiet glance at the store logo on the wall and a simple thank you as she left. But inside, something shifted. That experience stuck with her like a stone in her shoe. Annoying, painful, impossible to ignore. And here's where things got interesting. Maya had connections. She had built relationships with investors, brokers, and business mentors. So when she made a few calls and found out the store was privately owned and not doing well financially, an idea started to form. She didn't want revenge. She wanted change. But what kind of change? And how far was she willing to go to make a point? Behind the scenes, Maya began pulling strings. She didn't want to just buy the store, she wanted to understand it. Who owned it? Why was it struggling? And most importantly, who was running it into the ground? A little digging revealed that the boutique had once been a thriving local brand, known for supporting up-and-coming designers. But in the past few years, a change in management had pushed out the original owner, shifted the focus to high profit margins, and brought in a new team that cared more about image than service. The manager who told Maya to leave, her name was Lauren, young, ambitious, and more concerned with how things looked than how people were treated. Lauren had turned the store into her personal kingdom, hiring staff that reflected her own narrow idea of class and discouraging anyone who didn't fit the mold. Staff turnover was high, morale was low, but nobody said a word. Jobs were hard to come by, and people were afraid to speak up. Meanwhile, Maya kept things quiet. She posed as a mystery shopper, spoke to former employees, and watched from a distance. Every story was the same. Customers judged by appearance, workers overworked and undervalued, and a manager who thought kindness was weakness. But what Maya didn't know yet was that Lauren had her own secrets, ones that could complicate everything. And as the deal to acquire the store inched closer, the lines between personal and professional started to blur. Maya was about to find out that buying the store was the easy part. The papers were signed on a rainy Thursday morning. Just like that, Maya became the official owner of the boutique that once shut its doors in her face. But she didn't walk in with cameras or big announcements. She waited. She wanted to see things for herself, how the staff behaved when they didn't know who was watching. She visited the store 2 more times in different outfits, unnoticed, each time treated with the same cold attitude. It wasn't just a bad day or one rude employee. This was culture. Toxic, careless, and built from the top down. Back at her office, Maya paced the floor. Her legal team was ready, her business plan was solid, but something still didn't sit right. She had uncovered something, an anonymous letter left behind by a former employee. It hinted at shady accounting, unpaid wages, and even internal complaints that were mysteriously erased. The name Lauren showed up more than once, along with a few suppliers Maya hadn't seen in the books. This wasn't just about rude service anymore. There was something deeper going on inside that store, and Maya was stepping straight into it. She had the power now, but she also had a choice: quietly clean house or expose everything. The tension kept rising. Rumors swirled in the local business community. The staff began sensing change, though they didn't know how close it really was. And Lauren, she was starting to hear whispers that someone new was pulling the strings, someone who wasn't going to stay silent for long. Just as Maya was preparing to step in and take full control, something unexpected happened. A cease and desist letter arrived at her office, signed by none other than Lauren. Apparently, Lauren wasn't just a manager. She was part owner. Quietly given a small stake years ago during a restructuring, she had legal leverage Maya hadn't anticipated. It was a move meant to block the takeover, or at least delay it long enough to cause chaos. Maya's team scrambled to verify the claim. It was real. The entire deal was now hanging by a thread. Maya couldn't believe it. She had done everything by the book. Yet somehow Lauren had buried herself deep enough in the store's history to become more than just an employee. It was a smart move, and it bought Lauren time, just enough to start covering tracks, shifting finances, and planting doubt among the remaining staff. Whispers started circulating inside the boutique. Someone's coming for the store. Lauren says it's a hostile takeover. The mood turned icy. Loyal employees who had once quietly hoped for change now felt stuck in the middle. Maya wasn't just facing a toxic workplace anymore. She was facing a calculated opponent who had spent years manipulating people, policies, and paperwork to stay in control. Maya had to move carefully now. One wrong step could tank everything, and the more she uncovered, the more it became clear. This wasn't just a bad manager. This was someone who would do anything to hold on to power, even if it meant burning the place down. Maya stayed calm, even as the pressure built. She doubled down, bringing in a forensic accountant to quietly audit the boutique's financial records. What they found changed everything. Lauren hadn't just manipulated the system, she had been embezzling money for over a year. Fake supplier invoices, cashback schemes, and hidden expenses buried deep in the books. It was all there. And worse, she had used her partial ownership as a shield to keep others from looking too closely. With proof in hand, Maya made her move. She called a mandatory staff meeting, inviting everyone, including Lauren, under the pretense of introducing a new investor. When Maya walked in and stood at the front of the store, jaws dropped. Lauren's smirk faded instantly. Maya calmly laid out the evidence, piece by piece, ending with a signed affidavit from a former supplier Lauren had scammed. The room was dead silent. Lauren tried to fight back, raising her voice, throwing out legal threats, but it was over. Maya had already filed a motion to dissolve Lauren's ownership due to fraud, and law enforcement had been quietly looped in. Security was waiting outside. Lauren didn't leave by choice. The staff, stunned, broke into quiet applause. Some even cried. Maya didn't just buy the store, she rescued it. But just as everything seemed wrapped up, Maya found one last envelope in the office safe. Inside, a signed agreement transferring full ownership back to the original founder, dated only weeks before the sale. Maya thought she owned everything, but had someone else beaten her to the punch? Maya sat alone in the back office, holding the envelope in her hands. The signature was real. The original founder, an older woman named Elise, had quietly begun the process to reclaim the store before Maya ever stepped in. It turned out Elise had been watching from afar too, heartbroken by what her store had become. She didn't have the resources to save it, but she still cared. And now, because of timing, she technically held the rightful claim. Most people would have fought it. Maya had the money, the paperwork, and every legal reason to hold her ground. But something about Elise's quiet hope reminded Maya of herself. So instead of pushing back, she reached out. They met at a nearby cafe, two women from different worlds, both with the same dream. What started as a legal meeting turned into a conversation that lasted hours. And by the end of it, they decided to co-own the boutique. Together, under their leadership, the store transformed. The toxic staff were replaced with kind, passionate people. Wages were raised. A mentorship program launched for young designers. And the store, once cold and exclusive, became a space where everyone felt welcome. Word spread quickly, and business boomed, not just because of the clothes, but because of the story behind them. Maya never wanted revenge. She wanted respect, fairness, and change. And in the end, that's exactly what she built. Not through power plays or pride, but through quiet strength, good people, and doing the right thing when it mattered most.